All right, I see the red light that we are live. Welcome to the 2021 Explorers Club Canadian Chapter Annual General Meeting. As part of our chapter, or as a part of our bylaws, we are required to have a general meeting once per year, and we typically have it on the second Friday of December, and that's tonight. So I want to thank you all for showing up. If you happen to be getting a message from someone from another member who says they can't get into the room here, please do direct them to the YouTube link, because we can only fit so many people in the StreamYard room here. So, of course, I am Chapter Chair George Karunas, outgoing Chapter Chair. This is the last few weeks of my tenure as Chapter Chair. So let me pull up my presentation, and we'll go through basically some of the things that have happened throughout the year and what we've got coming up. It's been, despite COVID, it's been an interesting year. There's been a lot of stuff going on. So share screen. Entire screen. Is that sharing now, Joe? Yeah, I think it is.
Not yet, George.
That's not sharing?
No, it's when you're doing the entire screen, you'll see under a little image of your screen. If you click on that first, then the share button will light up.
There we go.
Yeah, I see it now. Here it comes.
My apologies. There we go. That should be full screen now. All right. Let me just close this door here. Awesome. So let's basically start at the beginning of 2021 and what our elected executive status was coming into 2021. So I started the last year of my second term. There are 2-year terms. And that status was also shared by Ian McNairn in the Prairies, Northwest Territories, Travis Stephens, of course, in Ontario, Nunavut, and Kirsten Johnson in Quebec Maritimes. All 4 of us, 2021 was the last year of our second term in office. So all 4 of us were required to be replaced in this upcoming year. Out in BC and Yukon, Suneva Sorby started her year 1 of her first term. So nothing changes for her on January 1st of the upcoming year. But what will be changing is, of course, we have a new chapter chair taking over, Jet Britnell, FI16, from out in British Columbia. He has stepped up to the challenge, and I am very, very happy to have him on board as the new chapter chair. The chapter is in very good hands moving forward. He has already served as a regional director, so he knows a lot about the chapter and knows almost everybody. If you don't know Jet, make the opportunity to reach out to him and certainly say hello. Jet, are you able to chime in just to maybe say hello and
Yeah, hi everyone.
The chapter, so to speak.
Am I unmuted there?
I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, hi everyone. Yeah, excited about the opportunity and looking at 2022 early part of the month. We'll get the executives together on a Zoom call and kind of lay out a plan for the coming year and go from there. And thank you, George, for everything. You've been a great help through the transition, getting me prepared and with some of the background material, which is fantastic.
Yes, absolutely. So we've already been having quite a few conversations about making sure that everything is as smooth as possible, basically setting Jet up to win in 2022 and beyond. So thank you so much for stepping forward to provide your service to the chapter. Really appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing where you take the chapter.
Thank you.
Oh, a quick question, Jet. Did you get that email about the board meeting that I sent you?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Got it. Yep. Okay, great. Jet's first official board meeting in New York is going to be on January 8th, which I will talk about in another section of this, about something that might be relevant to everyone who is here. Let me reshare my screen and we can continue here. Awesome. So as mentioned, Jet will be replacing me. Sunniva, no changes there out in British Columbia, but we do have 3 new regional directors taking over. In the Prairies and Northwest Territories, Mackenzie Collette will be taking over from Ian McNairn. In Ontario, Robin Brooks is going to be taking over from Travis Steffens. And in the Quebec and Maritime region, Marlon Lewis will be replacing Kirsten Johnson. So along with Jet, I'm very happy with this set of regional directors that are coming in. It's going to be a really good team moving forward. If anyone here has any questions as I go, type them into the chat, and Joe can sort of bring them to my attention. So I'll be certain to have some time at the end for questions, but if you do have a question throughout on this and anything that in particular that I'm addressing, then please go ahead and type that in. In terms of the appointed executive members of the Canadian chapter team, there were no changes in 2021. Everyone who is serving in their respective positions have remained in their respective positions. So thank you all. Marliese in membership, Mava, and the rest of the communications team, Lee and Anne, Roger, of course, taking care of the email list and the website, Aaron, David Bing taking care of awards and honors, and David taking care of the role as treasurer, which we'll talk about more later as well. So no big changes there. Actually, the only change in this is that Marliese upgraded from member to fellow. Congratulations, Marliese. Speaking of Marliese, here's our membership breakdown for basically what is the numbers of members, etc. in the chapter here. So currently, the 2021 total is 263, up from 253 last year. So we're up about 10 members, up exactly 10 members. Marliese, if you don't mind chiming in here, because you can probably better explain some of the details of what's going on in this spreadsheet better than I can, sort of to explain what some of these numbers mean.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, George. Hi, everyone. Thanks, George, also for the call out that I've been promoted to fellow. So what happens is every year we ask HQ headquarters, the Explorers Club headquarters, to get us a report, and this is a summary of the report they give us. So from their report, I can see how many people are active, who and how many. Delinquent, which is fees are membership dues are behind for 1 year, or suspended if it's more than a year, up to 2 years, maybe a bit longer, and approved new members who are approved, but they have yet to pay their first fees, and those reinstated. They also tell me how many have who is deceased, who has resigned, who's dropped out. However, the dropout, everything underneath here after this total members list is forever to date, kind of, sort of. The numbers are not. Every year they give me an odd list, so it's only up to the total members to November 29th, 2021 that I really have a good handle on, that I can say, oh yeah, so we have 258 members as at November 29th. So then I know myself, going to the top table here, I keep track of all the new members in our club in the year. So I know we had 10 new members in the club this year. And I know that we had, unfortunately, two members passed away. So that's a sad note. And thereby I can plug the rest to say, okay, how many have been reinstated, how many are resigned, dropped, or reclassified between student, term, member, fellow, the different categories. I also know at the after November 29th how many more members we've actually submitted applications for that headquarters has not yet counted. So that's how we know that we can get up to, that we technically have 263 members, although HQ is only counting 258. Oh, and these numbers, by the way, they also include where a member is a primary member in a different chapter, but is a secondary or maybe even tertiary member in our club, because there are some members who belong to more than one club. So that's the logic process, how we get to the numbers, between the difference between what HQ sends us and my own count.
Exactly.
Any questions? Just someone on the chat or, yep.
Yeah. Just to reiterate what Marlies was mentioning there, the pending, those 5 pending members, those are the ones that were from the most recent batch of nominees that went in. They were approved by the board, but we're still waiting on their 30-day waiting period and for them to pay their dues. Once that occurs, assuming all 5 complete that process 100%, then we will sit at 263.
Oh, wait, George. Oh. And one more. I just submitted a new application today.
Yes, but that's going to be taken into consideration in the next board meeting on July 8th or January 8th. So that doesn't count for this, does it?
Maybe. Depends how the timing works. Timing works.
Okay, I see. Okay, but bottom line is this is pretty normal for us in terms of numbers. We typically bounce around between 250, 260, around there, between attrition and new people coming in. We end up around there. We are still the largest of the international chapters, and we are the 4th largest chapter in total. So yes, it's a big chapter, and I'm a little sad to say though that next year's numbers will likely be significantly lower, and here's why. The powers that be at HQ have been very generous during COVID in terms of being lenient in terms of overdue dues. The whole idea is that they've been lenient during COVID because COVID hardship is a very real thing and not everyone is able to pay their dues. And there was a significant list of Canadian members who were 2 years overdue without paying their dues. And typically they would be dropped, but they have not been dropped yet. But that time is coming soon, likely to be voted on at the next board meeting. So if you got an email from me last week, or the week before rather, sort of imploring that you pay your dues, the clock is ticking. And I suspect that there will be a fair number of those who are on that delinquent list who will end up not renewing their dues due to COVID hardship in terms of, finances of COVID, which I fully understand. So we will likely see a dip on our numbers next year. That is the reason why it just hasn't been reflected. All of those people that haven't been paying their dues, they've been deferred, but eventually the bill comes due, and that is right about now. Anything to add there, Marlies, before I move on?
That's about right. So normally the number for the oh, sorry, I just lost my page here. Normally the number for the suspended, which is less than or equal to 2 years delay, so 1 to 2 years delay in their fees. It's only up to 2 years, but right now it's longer than 2 years. That's to your point, George. They've got some people in there that in that category that are up to 3 years past due on their dues. So please, if you can, pay up. If not, if you cannot afford it, send an email to, to headquarters, to the membership committee, and they will try to help you, try to facilitate, find a way to help you keep your membership.
Yes, absolutely. They've been working with people as best they can. They've been playing good cop as much as they can, but pretty soon their hands are going to be tied and they're going to have to play bad cop. But they want to help you. So in terms of sponsoring members continuing going forward, a lot of Canadian members will sometimes be nominated directly to New York and not go through Marlies, but we highly recommend that you do. If you're going to nominate one of your peers or colleagues, please send that application to membership@explorersclub.ca. That way she can look at it, cross the T's, dot the I's, ensure that it has the highest chance of being accepted by the committee. It also gives us a better oversight into the quality of the applications, and it helps us integrate them into our system much better in terms of email list, etc. Email list management is one of the most complicated things in this club, between head office and the chapters and the regions. It's extremely complicated, so that really does help a lot. In terms of members that we have lost this year that have moved on to higher exploration, as we say, my good friend Gilles Gagne, he was the Chief Operating Officer of the Royal Canadian Geographical Society and the publisher of Canadian Geographic magazine. I've known Gilles for many, many years. It was always a pleasure to deal with Gilles, to travel with Gilles. We were up north in polar bear country together on an RCGS trip a number of years ago. And it was him who presented me with my RCGS flag that I carry with me as an explorer in residence for them. So it was a very painful loss losing Gilles this year. And of course, Corey Trepanier also recently left us. Corey was, as all of you know, just a tremendous artist, painter, filmmaker, author, just amazing person who would take his canvas out into the Arctic and paint right there, and then bring his sketches home to blow them up into a giant mural that are his paintings hang all over the world in places of tremendous prominence. So it's a real shame to see those two gentlemen go. I attended both of their funerals personally, and wanted to make sure that our condolences from the Canadian chapter were adequately presented to their families. So that was it was sad, because both these guys were good friends. But we celebrate their lives as opposed to mourning their loss. On a happier note, in terms of our awards this past year, our Stephenson Medal winner for the past year was John Pollock. Of course, John was a previous chapter chair. He won his Stephenson Medal for a lifetime of global contribution as a scientific explorer, expedition leader, author, and volunteer dedicated to underwater archaeology and exploration. Not only is John an underwater archaeologist, but he is also known for his cave explorations and so many other things. Absolutely a wonderful guy. He has been a great mentor to me personally, and an advisor to me who I consult with on a semi-regular basis as chapter chair to glean some of his knowledge. And our Citation of Merit award winner this year was myself. Thank you very much to those who nominated me, and I appreciate receiving this award that recognizes both my contributions to the chapter as a volunteer, but also to my explorations. That was a very nice treat to be able to receive that in my final year as chapter chair. Thank you very much. It's greatly appreciated. It's hanging right above my desk. I'm looking at it right now. So the next winners, so they will be announced very soon. The committee led by David Bing is reviewing the submissions for this upcoming year for the Steph Medal and the Citation of Merit. They will be announced either later this month or very early in the new year, so keep an eye out for that in the newsletter. And if you are going to nominate someone, please do keep in mind that if it's a Stephenson Medal nomination, once you submit that nomination, it is good for a total of 3 years. So it's one of those things that just keeps going. The Citation of Merit does not carry over. It's only good for 1 year at a time. So if you nominate someone and they do not win, you will have to renominate them the following year. So please nominate people. We have so many great folks in the Canadian chapter, and we don't get nearly as many nominations as I would like to see every year. So when the call comes out, please do heed that call. And I want to specifically call out Jeff Wilner and Kensington Tours. They sponsored the fabrication of our medals, and they are here. We're good for the next 4 years. So that is an expense that we do not have to worry about incurring in the near future. A big shout out to the communications team, everyone there who is responsible for publishing our newsletter every month. Of course, the newsletter can only be as good as the information that's in it. So please, we rely on your submissions. If you have news, if you have an expedition report, if you've got stories from an older expedition, if you have a photo essay, anything that you would like to share with the Canadian chapter, we are always hungry for your submissions. So please, submit all of those. Oh, I also want to make a point that our Canadian chapter domain name has also been renewed for 8 more years. So that's something that we don't have to worry about for quite some time as well. And more about website coming up. ECAD is on. HQ is very excited about hosting a live in-person ECAD this year. It's going to be held April 23rd. Of course, the Delta variant put a major spanner into the works of ECAD this year. It was originally supposed to be, of course, the 2020 ECAD was canceled and then postponed until the spring of 2021, and then that got pushed to the fall of 2021, and that ended up not happening. But it is on, it is booked, it is happening on April 23rd. Now, the base level tickets are already sold out. So if you have not already got your tickets, the only way to get a ticket now is to go up one level. I'm not sure, I can't remember off the top of my head what the prices are. They're a little expensive this year because it's a smaller venue. I think they're maxing out at only 1,000 people. So in order to compensate, they have to up the price a little bit. So if you are interested in going to ECAD, check and see what the ticket availability is, see what your budget is, and please let Marlise know, because she is organizing Canadian tables. So once your ticket is secure, let her know, fire off an email, membership@explorersclub.ca. And if you want to, of course, be part of the Canadian tables. We typically have about 2 Canadian tables at ECAD. Speaking of website, okay, they have gone to a great amount of effort. Big shout out to Kevin Murphy down in New York for spearheading the updated explorers.org website. It is now live. But if you want to use it, you must set up a new account. You may have had an old account for going into the members only area. It is no longer valid. You need to set up a new login. All you'll have to do, it's very easy. You go in, I did it within seconds. You put in your email address, you create a new password, and boom, you will be in. And the new website is great. It's so much better than the old website. In the members section, here's a bit of a behind the scenes view of what's in there. So you can view the member list, the roster. You can pay your dues through the website very easily. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, for those of you who might be delinquent on that. You can see the overview of your benefits, some of the reciprocal clubs. Some of the benefits, of course, include Travel Guard insurance, not Travel Guard, Global Rescue insurance, and a few other things. You can apply for your flag expeditions there. You can get, you can see who's on the different committees at the club, etc. You get your copy of the bylaws, new member announcements, all kinds of stuff there. So that's behind the curtain of the members area once you establish your new profile. So please, if you have not done that already, go do that. It'll help streamline your Explorers Club website experience tremendously. In terms of events this year, of course, because of COVID, it was a bit of a quiet year in terms of events. We had a few virtual ones. Ian Evans, who is a returning presenter for the Explorers Club, He lives out in Elora, Ontario area here. His first talk with us was about his trek to the South Pole, and he went from cold to hot, and this time he gave us stories of his adventure cycling across the middle of the Australian outback. And it was a really great presentation, very hair-raising in some parts. And then Jeff Blumenfeld, who's a good friend and chairman of the Rocky Mountain chapter. He's an author. He's the publisher of the Expedition News newsletter, which I highly recommend you subscribe to. Expedition News, just look it up. And it's a monthly newsletter, and it's very, very good. So if you want to have your finger on the pulse of what's going on in the expedition world, sign up for his newsletter. And he was talking about traveling with purpose, basically voluntourism. And he's a bit of a notable expert on that. So it was great to have Jeff come and speak to the Canadian chapter. We did have a few in-person meetups in Toronto. We had 2 or 3 of them this year as COVID restrictions allowed. Here's some pictures from one of the ones we had at Say What down on Front Street. And that was great. We had a great turnout. It was great to sort of be back in the swing of hanging out in person again. It was just so lovely. And I can't wait to be able to actually do that in person again. I do not know yet what our status will be moving forward in terms of 2022 and our ability to hold in-person meetings at Kensington Tours. That is still up in the air. We don't know yet, but hopefully we'll find out very soon in the new year, and we'll be able to resume. Depends, of course, on regulations and restrictions and vaccination status and Omicron and a lot of moving parts, as you all well know. So finances. Well, it's been a great year for us, actually. There's some really interesting stuff going on with the finances for the club, which I'm going to talk about. I'm going to bring David Galbraith on here, our treasurer, to basically summarize this. David, if you don't mind, just basically coming on here and giving us a bit of a shout. And I'll go on and I'll talk about the incentive program from HQ. So you don't need to go into too much detail about that. But if you don't mind just summarizing basically what's on the balance sheet here in our statement.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, George, and good evening, everybody. Yeah, this is the end of my 3rd year as chapter treasurer. And this has been a year when we've actually seen things happen. It's amazing. It's been a pretty quiet watch. I took over from Ingo Chappelle, who had been our chapter treasurer previously. And what happened this year, I suppose 3 things are in the works. One is the big expense of the fabrication of the Stephenson medals, as George mentioned. Which was a project that took several months in 2020 to orchestrate. We actually did all the work in 2020 and finally had the bill come payable in 2021. And as George has mentioned, Jeff Wilner and Kensington Tours came through with the amazing support for covering the fabrication cost of those medals. So that's the biggest single financial transaction we've seen. In the middle of the year, George and I started working on something pretty important because previously our finances had been pretty informal. We are not an incorporated club in Canada. We're just a bunch of people with fantastic opportunities to get together and a club charter and so on. But we don't have a legal existence as a corporate anything. And there really hadn't been a feeling previously that we needed to go very far in terms of becoming formal with our finances. However, as George will mention, there is an incentive program that HQ is offering to chapters. And in order to receive this incentive that they've offered, we really had to organize our finances a bit. So after a fair bit of research in August, we actually opened a bank account for the chapter. It's with the Pace Credit Union in Ontario. And so at the present time, we're set up to actually receive funds, spend funds, and have funds accounted for through Pace. And the signing authorities on that account are the treasurer, yours truly, and our chapter chair. We've had a couple of nice anonymous donations through the year that picked up some of our minor expenses. So basically, we came through the whole year slightly ahead of where we were at the beginning of the year. Plus, now this anticipated incentive payment from HQ. So we're in very good shape. We haven't got that HQ payment yet, but we're anticipating it. And George can address what that means. But the bottom line is we've got, once that payment comes in, between $1,500 and $1,600 Canadian in the bank right now.
Yes, and what David is talking about in terms of anticipated payment, it is literally the electronic transfer has been sent from New York and it just hasn't landed in our account yet. We were literally checking our online banking status like hours ago, expecting it to have been deposited, and it's just in the ether of financial transactions right now. So it is literally that close. And the exact amount will depend upon what the exchange rate happens to be at the moment that it is deposited. So what is it? What is this approximately $1,300, $1,200, $1,300 payment that we're getting from HQ? Well, it's the Activation Incentive Program. This is something that existed years ago and then fell off the radar at HQ and was resuscitated when Tim Radke was the VP of chapters. And we had a big chapter chair meeting, and it came back up, and it was still on the books that this existed. And so we leaned into this. And basically, the idea is that for every, it gets a little complicated here. I need to word this very carefully. If you are to sponsor someone for the Canadian chapter and they are accepted, then HQ will give $25 to the chapter of the nominator, each nominator. So if you sponsor someone for the Texas chapter and you are of the Canadian chapter, then the Canadian chapter gets $25. If you sponsor someone in the Canadian chapter, well, you are in the Canadian chapter as the sponsorer, then the Canadian chapter gets $25. If two people, a lot of the levels of membership require two sponsors, this goes for each sponsor. So not the member that is being sponsored, but the actual sponsors. And so what I negotiated with HQ was, because this plan was in effect for quite some time, that we had not taken advantage of it because it was sort of lost to the sands of time and institutional knowledge. I basically told them, I said, look, let me retroactively apply for a bunch of these that came into effect since the beginning of my term as chapter chair. And so that equated to about 40 or so names of sponsors. And so I submitted that list to HQ, and it got lost, and there was a lot of back and forth. And then David and I went through a whole bunch of effort trying to establish this bank account. But regardless, it finally went through, and now that payment is pending. So it's this one-time lump sum for back payment, a retroactive back payment. Moving forward, we'll be keeping track of new sponsors, etc. And so maybe quarterly or 3 times a year, we'll be submitting smaller requests to New York. And now that we have all the payment, we have most of the payment stuff in order, but we actually do have to make some more changes in the new year because our credit union doesn't have any branches out in British Columbia where Jet is. So that's a bit of a complication for us, but that's not the end of the world. But having said that, we will have this new source of revenue, this recurring source of revenue based on our ability to sponsor new members to the club, whether they are part of our chapter or not. So I really hope that we take advantage of this as much as possible by nominating our eligible and worthy peers and friends and colleagues, people that you think are worthy of being in the club and sort of meet the ideas of what a club member should be. So I really encourage that to everyone. It's going to make a big difference to us. And right now, that is our biggest source of revenue. I know, talking with Jet, I know that he has some ideas for the new year in terms of generating some more revenue for the club and or for the chapter rather, which are very exciting. So that's all very good. And basically, I just want to thank you all. It's been a tremendous 4 years. It's been almost, it's been overwhelmingly good. Overwhelmingly good. The people of the Canadian chapter are so great. There is so little drama in our chapter compared to some others, and it just speaks to us. It speaks to me as a Canadian, and how stereotypically nice we Canadians are. And I'm very proud of the accomplishments of all of you. Canadian explorers, I've been saying this for years, are second to none. We are world class, and I want to keep hearing about all of your adventures. Even though I'm retiring from chapter chair position, I'm still going to be heavily involved with headquarters in terms of being involved with various committees. I'm still going to be involved with the Discovery Channel Grants Committee and at least a couple of other committees as well. So I will still have my finger on the pulse. And of course, I'm always available for consultation as a chapter chair emeritus, if you will. And if anyone has any questions, now's a great time. I don't really have anything official to add to that. It's been a good year for us, despite the lack of ability to travel. We've been moving forward. Our numbers are up. Our finances are up. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in the next couple of years. And Marliese put a note here in the chat. Yes, let her know when you sponsor someone for membership so she can keep track for the activation incentive program, because she'll basically be tracking that. Even if it's for someone outside of our chapter, please do let her know. Just looking at the chat here. Kirsten tuning in from Nunavik. Kirsten Johnson, thank you for your service, Kirsten. I really appreciate everything that you've done out there in Quebec Maritimes, and I know that you've only got a couple of weeks left in your term. John Pollock, our Stephenson Medal, is here saying hi from British Columbia as well. So many great people here. Awesome, fantastic. Joe, is there any questions on the YouTube side of things?
No, I don't see any in the chat, George.
Awesome. Well, with that, I would basically then call this 2021 meeting, annual general meeting of the Canadian chapter closed. If there are no other questions, now's the time. Speak now or forever have your peace, as they say. Excellent. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to a great 2022. Can't wait to get back out in the field. And a big shout out to Joe Grabowski for basically officiating this meeting for us. He's literally in LAX airport, tucked away in a corner, basically supervising this and organizing this meeting for us. So thank you, Joe, for all of everything that you do. Awesome. Cool. I guess that's it. Thank you so much, everyone. Stay safe. Have a great weekend. All the best.